Today I will present Ebenezer Howard's concept of the Garden City, presented in 1902. The Garden City concept presents the movement of urban planning that is emphasized at the center of the city and within the city, where it becomes the intersecting point for self-contained communities surrounded by a green belt, thus shaping countryside and town together, unifying them as a modern human settlement. The town and country become integrated while creating an intended hierarchical division between both the idea of city and of country in an alternating cyclical formation. The center becomes the city nucleus, which is important to the garden city concept, and as the zones or alternating layers move more outward, the space becomes more agricultural and less congested. This concept came about from Howard's political ideologies, which were closely aligned with the industrial and commercial concerns that should be owned and controlled by the people. He was opposed to the trade movement, as cities were becoming overly congested due to mass migration from the countryside. This led to the cities becoming polluted and dirty. Howard found his inspiration from the concepts of organized migratory of population, system of land tenure, and the model city. And from these influences he derives his concept of the garden city, suggesting that people should live in places where the spaces combine the best aspects of both city and countryside lifestyle. Howard substantiates the need for this model by arguing that human society and the beauty of nature are meant to be enjoyed together. And how else to do this other than to reintegrate the city people with the countryside? He explains his concept using the three magnets: the magnet of town, the magnet of country, and the magnet of town country, and how people are the needles attracted to these magnets. These magnets define the aspects which attract people to each type of lifestyle. Howard modeled his concept around each design being dependent on the city's context, where democracy rules the garden city. This model is based on four important elements: no landlord rent, clear sites of buildings, the economy rising out of a definite plan, and the possibility to introduce engineering machinery for operations. Design unity becomes important for a structured city growth, in order to prevent a chaotic city growth, resulting in a final scheme of a developed town, contributed by various professionals and trades. The vision is one based on a utopian of a better future, one that can be realistic and achievable. It stands for communities owning land and bridging the gap between capitalism and socialism's ideal, and eliminating slummy work and living conditions. By merging the town and country, alienation of people and society from nature can be reduced. Two models that were implemented and constructed were Letchworth in 1903 and Welwyn in 1919, both in England. This garden city concept does captivate one, and seems like a great model to implement in order to eliminate chaos and bring about order. However, it does pose a restriction of population. This restriction, calculated at 5.5 people per house per city, wants to control population growth, which is an unnatural expectation on the residents, and rather puts more emphasis on the rigid pattern of the city layout. This can, in retrospect, lead to an overpopulated city if the residents don't share the sympathy of the model to house only 5.5 people per house, should the city be of a small size. Like any urban planning model, the garden city wants to preserve the city's characteristics and present new opportunities. It aims at preserving chances of employment, the public spirit, and the sense and need to be near forests and meadows for psychological fulfillment. The opportunities which it emphasizes are for each town or city to be independent to the other, and for economic relations to be more efficient, and for tight-knit communities and human relations and contact to be of importance. It is important to keep in mind that when Howard thought the garden city model up, it was conceptualized around the railway and boat as means of transport. The car was not a popular commodity, if a commodity at all. Dividing the city by means of zone rings were to create a structured layout that would make mobility easier and development possible. by creating a centre focused on public buildings and facilities would make it better to develop the city in stages. Here we can see the map of a garden city layout. A central city connected to other cities by means of a railway and a canal. An intermunicipal canal and railway encircle the central city, a means by which maintenance can be done and the cities connected with one another, each with their own population possibilities. Where land between the cities is used for farming, and the land surrounding the city is allocated for less frequent uses, such as quarries, cemeteries, industrial homes, reservoirs, and waterfalls. It can sometimes become a challenge of whether this model relates to a single city on a small scale or to several cities on a large scale. It is easier to understand the model if one relates it to connecting several cities on a larger scale. From this one can start to see the pattern in what happens when this model grows and more cities are added to the model, while still being linked with one another.